to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode 150-something once again of the Art of War Down Under podcast. My name, as always, is Adam Camilleri. And this episode is going to be a pretty spicy special one because it's the very first time I've ever had the good grace of speaking to this lovely gentleman who's about to join us in a second. But he hails from, I guess, one of the only places on the world that's further south than where I'm sitting right now. He hails from Cape Town, South Africa. He's representing South Africa at the WTC for the very first time. That great nation is sending a team. His name is Kyle, and he's joining us. Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
How's it, guys? Happy to be here. Very keen to share some knowledge. And let's go.
So we're going to be reviewing the metal men themselves, the Necrons, the Undying Dynasties, and it's going to be a pretty spicy one. So, I mean, I'm going to be holding on to this episode, I believe, because out of respect for the WTC team, things like that, don't want to let the cat out of the bag that you guys are bringing Necrons as one of your armies, whether it's, right or wrong here or there. I'm just going to take it out of the equation. So I'll put this episode up after list submission for WTC. It's already locked in, not going to hurt anybody's chances. But welcome to the show, mate. How are you feeling about South Africa's chances right now? We're going to unpack that a little bit more in part two, but off the cuff, are you super stoked and excited to be representing your nation?
Yeah, man. It's our first time going. It's kind of been a dream of a few of us, to go across. I think the last few years, especially how 40K has become more of a global phenomenon, and the access to it on the internet through Art of War and all the other content creators, I think it's really upped the average player's game. And, I think a lot of the players down here, we're ready to burst out of our little ponds and go out to the great big lake and get either smashed or, pull out a ticket from Australia's cap and smash a bunch of other people, teach them what the real southern hemisphere meta is about.
Yeah. It's so exciting to see, isolated 40K communities join the world stage. Because, from your guys' point of view, I don't know how often people from your region get to go to some of the more international events, but just walking into that mixing pot, wondering if you're going to meet the level, to play. But, some great players down under have always said everyone's got the same rules, everyone's got the same models, everyone can learn and be as good as anybody in this game if you're willing to put in dedication. So I hope it is a awesome fairy tale for yourselves. Maybe not, more a fairy tale than Australia, but I want you guys to do extremely well, just not better than my team. But if I didn't say, this gentleman's name is Kyle MacKintosh. Sorry if I mispronounced that before. But Art of War Down Under is a two-part podcast. You can find the second part of this one over at Art of War Down Under over on Patreon, where you can join in, get involved with our wonderful Discord community and other bits and pieces. I know I haven't been answering many questions in the part twos from the patrons that will be rejoining us soon. I'm just getting as many of these index reviews in the pipeline before I jet off on a bit of a 3-week break, so I have a bit of a backlog. But my man, time to jump into the meat and potatoes of this. The metal men. What was the first time you went cover to cover on this index, what did you think?
So, we all had the Xenos Ascension Day when I'm mainly a Xenos player. I play Tau, I play Necrons, I play Eldari. And this was actually the third index that I went to because, from 9th edition, Necrons had they're pretty weak. They got a bit of a patch at the end to cool easy secondaries. But when we're going through this, we were like, okay, cool. Tau feels good. Eldari feels nuts. And as we were paging through the codex, me and my team, we were just like, whoa, that's pretty strong. Whoa, that's pretty good. And especially in the terms of how their rules interact with each other. Because there's a lot of, data sheets throughout the whole spectrum of the indexes that are by themselves amazing. The cool thing about the Necron Codex is that there is such depth in your combos and how you put your units together, especially where you choose which leaders lead which unit and how other units are going to support each other. But yeah, I was very excited. The the next week as we put them together, and really realizing how tough and tactically deep this army has become.
Well, I hazard to say, but of all the indexes, I believe Necrons is the deepest, as it has. Maybe Eldari is deeper because they just have so many good options. But I mean, the fact that you can just by changing which character is leading your 20 Necron warriors, etc., you can do so many different things with the unit, make it operate on so many different things. I would say the first time I went through it, I was a little my first impression was I was a little disheartened because I thought there was a little bit of flavor missing. For the longest time ever, Necrons had just good rend on all their guns, good AP or good rend, depending whatever edition it was. That was like the baseline. Their guns had good AP, went through armor well. I felt like that was missing, so I was a bit worried about their damage output. But then I found out all the jank that they could do, and I thought, this is fine. This is just fine.
Like, it's one of the most flavorful two rules conversion codexes out of it. Like, the only one I really like a bit more in terms of lore is demons. But like, I'd hear it, but the way that the reanimation works has been amazing. I really like it. And like when we got the previews, I was in the same boat of everyone. I was like, cool, doesn't seem that great. But it's again, how I was saying, how everything interacts with each other, and the combos you can build really sets this army to be a top tier one, in my own opinion.
It feels like there's a lot of armies that have combos, but not a lot of armies that have synergy. And I feel like Necrons are one of the few that have true synergy across the whole army. But anyway, let's jump into the first of these rules. If you know Light of War, then I know we are primarily a review-based podcast. Whenever there's a piece of content to be reviewed for the Great Game of 40K, we will be viewing it from the most competitive level that we can. And to do that, we pretty much read from the thing and discuss it at the highest level that we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to read through all the rules, and then my good man Kyle is going to tell us about some of the notable data sheets that you need to know as somebody either wanting to play Necrons, or you need to know if you're going to be fighting against Necrons. First up, we have reanimation protocols. If your faction is Necrons, at the end of your command phase, each unit from your army with this ability activates reanimation protocols and reanimates D3 wounds. Each time a unit reanimates a wound, you go through these 2 dot points. The first of which is if that unit contains one or more models with fewer than their starting number of wounds, they regain one of those lost wounds. And then if you have everybody in that unit at their starting strength and everyone is at their max number of wounds, you get to bring a model back. So if you rolled, for example, if you rolled 2 and you had a Lich Guard on 1 wound and 1 Lich Guard dead, and you rolled 2 wounds, you would get that wound back and then a 1 wound Lich Guard, yeah?
Yeah. So, like, what's really great about this is the multi-wound models you actually start getting back, because when you have something like a Destroyer or a Lich Guard, getting that just extra model back on the one wound is great. Because there's also other combos that come through that with Technomancers healing up, where you essentially getting back your full unit.
Yes, exactly right. There are so many ways to magnify this, aren't there?
Yeah, like when we go through some of the units, I'm going to highlight, I think, the best contenders, but there's just so many ways to interact with this rule. And it really starts playing on your positioning and where you're placing your models to get shot off or hurt. Can really redetermine your game.
So coming from 9th edition, a lot of people bemoaned the 9th edition one for really doing nothing for multi-wound models. But this one didn't seem that much better because it was only D3, and hell, you could just roll 1s for this all game. Is this significantly better than what they had in 9th?
I will first say it doesn't feel as bad as 9th when you get 3 of your score picks killed and you just don't roll 3 5s and you're just like, okay, I guess they did. Like this one, you're always getting a little bit back, maybe not so much as an extreme one. I must remember one of my games in the big tournaments here, I lost 5 of my score picks and I got back 4, and my opponent was not feeling too hot about that. But we can't do that anymore. But I think what's great about the way we use this in 10th edition is it's way more consistent, and you have more agency to use the rule throughout the army and really abuse the strength of reanimation protocols.
Agreed. All right, tell us about the Awakened Dynasty detachment rule.
It's simple. If you're got a leader that a Necron character, you just get +1 to hit. Sounds really simple, doesn't sound as great, but you realize the effects that the other characters do to your units, and also there's a buff effect normally in each of the data sheets, such as Lich Guard, that when a leader is in the unit, it's going to really benefit the specials. But we'll get into that later.
Good. So, but it's pretty interesting that it says, like, I mean, in 9th edition, this would have said noble on it, but this is just any old character. Doesn't matter what they are. And we all know there's like 15 characters in this book. There's so many for you to choose from, like Kid in a Candy Store style, but pretty straight up and down.
Yeah, no, and also the characters are actually good this time. It's not like an 8th or 7th edition when it was like you maybe had one good character, but they really pulled out all the stops with the characters. I think majority of the name characters in this index is good.
Yeah, which is wild as well, right? The named ones being good. I mean, only the Silent King previously was any good. And then in 8th edition, Anrakia had some play early in 8th edition. 9th edition, I remember, with the +1 attacks on a bunch of Necron warriors. But anyway, jumping into the stratagems, the first of which is Protocol of the Eternal Guardian. This is 1 CP, and it pops off in any phase. And this is when one Necron's character model from your army was just destroyed. Set your model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed, more than 1 inch away from all enemy units, with half its number of wounds remaining. Can only be used once per character, so you can only use it on the single character. Is this any good? Does this come up often for you?
This is probably army defining. This one, sorry. I was thinking of the other one. Sorry. So Eternal Guardian. This one is really good. So what happens a lot in your games is, well, in my experience, is that you'd have an enemy unit. They'll come and try and with precision kill your enemy, your infantry character. And that really destroys a lot of your like buffs that you'd get from the unit. And I find this is a nice way of not being able to be counted as easily because you lose a lot of your power. I think I use this once every 1 in 4 games if the enemy has a good precision model.
So yeah, it doesn't come up often, but you're happy when it does, right? You're happy to have it when you need it. All right, tell us about the next one.
So Protocol of the Hungry Void. So in your fight phase, 1 Necron unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, add +1 strength of the melee weapon equipped by the models in your unit. In addition, and now this is where that Necron character really starts to come into the army, is that if a Necron carrier is leading your unit until the end of the phase, improve the armor penetration characteristic of melee weapons by this model in your unit by 1. So like it's cute. It could work, but like it's situational. It's good to have, but like I don't think particularly we have very, very strong units. In melee, there's much more shooting coming out at the moment. Like this could help just getting past the break point of wounding on 4s or 3s, but I wouldn't necessarily always use it.
Yeah. With how the current index hammer's being played, shooting is king, and melee is so far below shooting and how often you want to try and make it effective. But just looking at this in a vacuum, 1 CP for +1 strength, +1 AP, we know right now melee weapons generally lack strength and AP. This is a good 1 CP strat if it was a little more relevant for how the game is played anymore. But another one, like when you need it, you'll be happy you have it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right. Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant up next, 1 CP. Your shooting phase, 1 Necron unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time model in that unit makes an attack, if that unit targets a unit that is within half range, so e.g. if you're in rapid fire range, you can re-roll the wound roll. If a Necron's character is leading your unit, you get to re-roll all the wounds at your full range, regardless.
Yeah.
So 1 CP in half range, but if you've got a character, you just 1 CP re-rolls to wound. Really good.
Yeah, 1 CP for full reroll wounds. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
I love this. it's one of my favorites to use on Locust Heavy Destroyers with the MNEC Destroyer, I think it's called, which is the Rapid Fire 6 with an 18.
Yep.
You can just absolutely smash almost any unit with that, barring knights. But like, it's really good. Like, if you have the CP to use it, just go for it. Like, smash them up.
I agree. That feels like a bread and butter. Like, you'll use this most shooting phases of a game. Like 3 or 4 out of 5 shooting phases, you'll find a way and a reason to use that. All right, what's next? Oh, this is the money.
This is the one I was talking about. This is almost index defining. Protocol of the Undying Legion. So, in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after an enemy unit has resolved attacks, then you target your one Necron unit, but you have to have lost a model. You can't do this on something like a Catan or like on a CCB. This only kind of works on your big bricks. So after this, you activate your reanimation protocols and reanimate D3 wounds. If a character is leading them, you get D3 plus 1. Like, there is at the moment like a little bit of contention if it means D3 from the reanimation and then you add the D3 plus 1. But I don't know, at the time of this release, it probably will be FAQ'd, or at least someone has some ruling on it. But at the moment, I've even been playing it on the very low spectrum of like, I only get D3 plus 1, but it's great for 1 CP. And the thing about this is it is affected by any of the buffs that you might get, say, from a reanimator. So you can get 2 D3 plus 1. So then there's also stratagems that you can use this for 0 CP if you have an overlord. You just spam this. If you know it's going to be a go-turn for your opponent, you hope you just 2 CP in the bank. It's going to be really hard to get rid of whatever I have you're trying to kill.
Correct. I mean, you could put this stratagem into literally any army in the game apart from GSC, and it would be the best strat in that book. Only Gene Stealer Cult will be like, we got better. Like, that's what our banner does. That's free. But this is incredible. Like, I would love to have this in Marines. Anyway, next one, Protocol of the Sudden Storm, 1 CP in your movement phase. 1 Necrons unit from your army. Until the end of the turn, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the assault ability. In addition, if a Necron's character is leading the unit, you can, until the end of the phase, you can re-roll advance rolls for your unit. I think one of the best applications I can visualize for this is to make a unit that doesn't have assault weapons be able to 1 CP do a card, do an action. A unit that wouldn't be able to advance to get into a position, like to do a teleport homers or something of that nature, to be able to advance and then be like, well, I couldn't have shot my weapons before, so I couldn't have advanced and done the actions. You know, I'm using kind of quotation marks, but this would allow you to do it.
Yeah, like you would be able to do that, do your action. It's like a nice cheeky little play if you can. It also works with like stuff like your Necron warriors who don't have assault on their weapons. They're very slow. I also use this sometimes if I have the space CP and I need to get like a big brick of Lich Guard up, just because I can reroll my advance roll. I want to get 3+ or 4+ just so I can get to my objective. It sometimes is worth it. But like, it's a nice toolbox thing to have in your back pocket. Don't mind it at all. Good to have.
All right, tell us about the last one.
So this one, Protocol of the Vengeful Stars. In my opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has resolved their attacks, 1 Necron unit from your army that has 1 or more of its models destroyed as a result of an attack unit attacks. You can shoot as it was your shooting phase, but it must target the unit that just shot. If Necron carries lineage units, until the end of phase, range weapons have ignore cover. This is one of the only ignore cover abilities we have in the Codex.
There you go.
So it's all right. I think it does well for something like a big warrior brick, or if they maybe just kill one of your Locust Destroyers. But situational. It's not my absolute favorite, but good to have.
Well, I've heard of a lot of Necron Warrior, people playing multiple bricks and Necron Warriors being really frustrated by things like single Hornets, Rhinos, nonsense units that they just have a toughness that they find hard to crack. This can just be a little bit of value. Like if someone just decides to shoot their storm bolter on their rhino, and you're like, well, I'm going to half kill your rhino with my, the 19 other warriors now. That could be a little bit of a game changer for people. But as it sits, like the heavy destroyers, things like that, I get really good mileage out of this. Like, someone pops out a brigand, pops one of your heavy destroyers. Oh well, let's kill it back. Is that something that can happen?
Yeah, like there is possible for it. I feel like you probably wouldn't be in that situation. I think it's fine for Necron warriors, but like usually they would kind of like overkill it. And if you get the chance to just fire back on it, you're not going to get as much output. But like it's cheeky. It's to keep in your back pocket again. But like situational, we'll see. But like I think of the 6, I'll probably use Vengeful Stars the least out of them.
That's totally fair. I mean, the game is so killy right now as well. But in saying that, the stratagem suite seems pretty good. I mean, like the first one and the last one seem the most situational, getting the character back and then shooting back. But the other 4 all seem pretty nice and pretty powerful.
Yeah, like you're not unhappy with any of them. And your game plan is just you use Undying Legions whenever you can, yes. Really. Yeah. And then whatever spare CP you have left, awesome.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, Conquering Tyrant is easily the second best, and then it kind of goes a little bit down from there. I mean, but still, like, Hungry Void is a good strat. It's just how often you're going to get a chance to use it where it matters. But anyway, stratagems are not too bad. Let's go into the enhancements. I'm going to start off with the meme dream of the last 6 years. The Veil of Darkness, which was the only one that was like the only ubiquitous auto-take relic for literally 2 editions for Necrons, which is a bit sad. But hey, it's back. And guess what? It does exactly the same thing it's done for 6 years.
It's slightly different the way that you used to use it, because you used to be able to do it at the beginning of your turn, so you could respond to it. But I think they probably changed it due to how the missions are now, and you have to elect to do it before you understand what your mission segment is. That's if you're playing tactical.
Correct. It's before you pull any cards. So just for knowledge at home, once per battle at the end of your opponent's turn, if the bearer is not within engagement range of any units, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, remove that unit from the battlefield, then they go into reinforcements. They come back on in the next turn, 9 inches away. So arguably, it's worse than previous iterations. It's still pretty good, though.
Yeah, the one really cool thing in the previous editions is you could be engagement range. So you could get tagged by something, and you could just beat back, shoot, charge. There was a lot more play. So like it still solves some of Necron's like inherent weakness of being quite slow, and you can get a slow brick across the board if you really need to. But yeah, it's still good. I think you take it situationally, but it's good utility, and to also just keep your opponent in the backfield, just imagining a whole brick of 20 warriors, like, every edition they have to think about.
I'm interested to know if this is an auto take still for people, because I'm not sure it's an auto take anymore. It's still pretty damn good though.
I've been testing it, and usually it's, if I'm looking for points, I'm looking to use another of the enhancements. This is first to go, because you'll see now the other 3 are absolutely amazing. All 4 actually pretty good. We've got a good selection of enhancements, and yeah, I think it just depends to how you're building your army and what kind of thing you're trying to achieve.
Mate, happy days, because in 8th edition, I can't tell you a single other Necron relic apart from the Veil of Darkness. In 9th edition, I can only tell you about the Veil of Darkness, and what was it? Was it the Solar Staff? That was the Super Staff of Light that had Tesla?
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 relics I know from 9th edition. So and one of them was the same relic from 8th edition. So anyway, tell us about the second of these enhancements.
So this one, I think, actually is one of the best ones, especially if you want to play into a shooting army archetype. So it's called the Sovereign Cornel. So what it does, you give it to any Necron unit and with character, and within 6, any friendly Necron units count as being led by a Necron character model. So any abilities that is associated with getting a Necron character, and that's also the abilities you'd get from the stratagems of being led by character, and the unit-specific abilities, as well as the army rule where we'll get +1 to hit. So this is amazing. You would want to put this Cornel on a lone operative. So it can never be shot in the back. So the two main that you could use is a Technomancer, which is my preferred one, due to its can heal up a bit, which is great if you're taking a lot of vehicles, but also it moves 10, so it can move across stuff, or you take a Hexmark, which Hexmark can be is a bit more defensive. But you just put it on your lone operative, and you just keep them near your backfield that's shooting, and it's happy days. You can just be hitting on 2s, getting all the buffs you want.
Correct.
Amazing.
This could just read Aura of +1 to hit. Because at a minimum, that is exactly right. At a minimum, that is what it is. And it just goes better and better and better from there. But if it was just +1 to hit in a 6-inch aura, that is very good by 10th edition metrics. And it is so much more than that. So I think this is very close to the auto take. How many points does this run you, by the way?
This is 30 points. It's the most expensive of the 4. And to be honest, 30 points is a steal for this.
I agree.
Especially you're getting the +1 to hit. Jesus.
All right. Next one up is Hyper Material Abilator. This is Necron's model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, they have the stealth ability. In addition, if you're targeting with range attacks, if they're not within 12, you have cover as well. So you might as well hit always. And then if they're outside 12, you get cover. I suppose this is pretty... I mean, obviously the first thought is to chuck this on warriors, right? But not always, yeah?
Yeah. You're using this to protect whatever brick you don't want to be shot at. I've seen people been using this on, they take a large unit of heavy destroyers and they just put a lord with this on, so they always -1 to hit and cover, which gives them quite good defensive. Or people put it on, it works really well on Lich Guard. Kind of any brick you don't want shot at, it's great. Do you always grab this? I don't know, because it's I think it's 20 or 25 points. I'm not too sure, but
it's 25.
It's 25, which is a bit expensive for just the -1 and the cover within 12 is cute, but it works really well for stuff that doesn't have defensive buff. But stuff with defensive buffs, it's nice to have, but if you have the spare points, but there's other cool things you can grab in the index.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, Matt, tell us about this last one.
So this one's very simple. It's grab a Necron warrior, slap a 4-up, feel no pain on it. This is really good on 2 of our units. The one unit is the Transcendent Catan, which is only Catan you can put a enhancement on, which makes it very, very hard to kill. T11, I think it is, with 4-up, very hard to kill, half damage. And then you also have, but also what I prefer to put on is a Catacomb Command Barge. Yeah, really hard to kill. It's got its inbuilt mini transhuman, and it can just be healing up. It just becomes such an awesome linchpin for your army.
It's only 10 points. So this is the Subterma Weave, by the way. And Necron's model only. So any old character you can... There's no restrictions on what character you put this on. For Feel No Pain is very potent. So the Catan halves damage, and a 4-up Feel No Pain is half damage. It could almost read half again the half damage, because that's exactly what it does. Really good. Only 10 points, man. It's a bargain. And I don't know how often you're writing lists that end up at 1990 at home, but man, a lot of my lists end up at 1990, so I would just be slapping this in anyway.
Yeah, every time. Don't go home without it. It's just, there's already a lot of Feel No Pains in the Necron Codex, and just adding another one to your opponents, you can just watch his tears roll down his face.
Correct. So as far as I'm concerned, the Sovereign Coronal is it's almost in every list, right? There are so many good applications for it. And then the other 3, it's just kind of pick your poison. I think they're all pretty takeable.
I think you always find points for the weave, and then the grabbing the 3rd enhancements all matters on what you're building for and if you can afford it.
Totally agree. Dude, so far this book is a banger. I think now that I'm thinking about the strats, I think before I said there was the first one and the last one were the 2 disappointments, but I do suppose Protocol of Sudden Storm isn't that enchanting, and then Hungry Void doesn't come up that much. They've got 2 bangers in the stratagem section, but they got 4 really relevant enhancements. The enhancements really, it seems like possibly the best section.
Yeah, there's not a bad one. If you want, if you could take 4, you would, but that's not them rules.
How many points is that? So what, 30, 60, 85 points? That's 85 is a lot. You just buy another unit instead of all the enhancements.
We can dream though.
Exactly right. So we're jumping over into the data sheets. Now, there are a lot of data sheets in this book. I'm going to lean on my man Kyle here. He's going to tell us the ones that he thinks are the most relevant. And we've got a bit of time, so let's jump around, man. I'll tell you when we need to wrap it up. But give us a couple of the HQs that you think people need to know about the most.
Yeah, let's start maybe with some of the named characters. So
there's a few.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they all, I think, 9 times out of 10 they're good. But in terms of like a defining model is Orican the Diviner. So
100%.
So he is a cryptech. And so he can always jump onto any other unit with a noble. So you can get up to 2 characters normally in your Necron units. You most likely always want to have 1 noble and 1 technomancer. And he would be your, not technomancer, cryptech, but he would be a cryptech. So what does he do? So he is ability is Master Chronomancer, which just gives every model in that unit a 4-up invuln. That is just straight up good.
Wow.
That takes a lot of units past like their durability. So there's 2 main ones you really want to put this on. So first of all, your warriors. That's 4-up, amazing.
Doubling.
Yeah. And then the second one, which we'll get to, my most loved unit in this case is the Lich Guard. But the Lich Guard with sights, you can actually take now without being scared of losing up that 4-up invuln.
Correct.
So yeah, you are wanting to take this for those units lacking the invuln, and just makes them instantly more durable. But he's not that bad in a fight either. So once per game, you select this model, and when he does, you triple his attack and strength characteristic. So at the moment, before he gets buffed up, he's just 2 attacks at strength 4. He becomes 6 attacks at strength 12. Any successful wound becomes a critical wound and becomes devastating. So he can be slamming.
Exactly right.
Just absolutely slamming, and in a pinch he does amazingly. So I think this is like one of the best named character units within the codex. If I had to choose out of any of the named ones, I would go for him. I
just realized, so he gets the +1 to hit as well. So when he's leading a unit, the unit gets +1 to hit and he gets +1 to hit. So he's hit on 2s, yeah?
Yeah, hitting on 2s.
Base. So he can have 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s or 3s. It'll only be 5s versus Knight Tyrants at that level. And then it's just going to be D3 mortals because they're all going to be devs if they wound. So he can do 6 D3 mortal wounds. And it's not that huge of a stretch to not roll any 1s to hit or 1s to wound if he's hitting on 2, wounding on 2s. Damn, like he can just pop off.
Yeah, just so useful to have just in the pinch, and also makes your warrior blob a little bit less desirable to charge when you can just slap this back at someone if they charge like some Terminators or something that's a bit more tough for the warriors to hit through.
Exactly right, and he will run you a meager 80 points. Like in the previous book, he'd be 130 minimum.
And he wouldn't even have the invuln on. It was something like he would have half what he's good.
It's so good. Anyway, all right, another character, mate. Another special character.
So I've been playing a lot with the other special characters, and I'll give a bit of W2C knowledge what we are at the moment valuing high. So you got Namzor Zandrek. He is very basic lord, and he's got 2 main abilities. So he's got Transient Madness, which is D3, you get a random buff, either sustain hits 1, lethal hits, or devastating. But the main thing that he has is having a free vect. An effect, if no one knows the terminology, it just means after an opponent has spent done a stratagem, it costs now an extra 1 CP. And why this is great is there's a lot of factions at the moment where they have a character buff where they can make something 0 CP.
Correct.
And it stops that from being spammable. And then also there's some other abilities, something the Overwatch, you can push your Overwatch to being 2, like versus Knight, that's invaluable, versus something like Tau, you could make them do the Overwatch or on 2s, or they jump on, I think it would be 3 CP. So it just gives you a lot of more flexibility. Most of the time, you actually want to look at your opponent's strats, and because Necrons are amazingly tanky, look at the strats that are buffing their damage either into +1 to wound or making things mortals or devastating, and target that ability, because that just makes you way more harder to kill. And
Agreed.
like it sounds pretty simple in theory, but the times in games that we've been using Vex throughout armies, it really is great. And I really recommend people just start using Vex more.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll run you 85 points. I wish he was a little better in either shooting or combat, because he's like 3 shots hitting on 3s at 521, or 4 attacks hitting on 3s at 521, also in combat or shooting. He's pretty durable, 6 wounds, toughness 5 with a 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable save. He is quite durable, and his buffs aren't terrible. The sustained hits, the lethal hits, all the devastating wounds. On the right units, you're happy with any of those, right? It doesn't matter which one you roll, you're okay.
Well, so I think his best to attach to is a Sword and Border Lich Guard. I would never have him attach to a Scythe Lich Guard, just because his abilities don't combo well with the devastating wounds on the Lich Guard Scythes, because you can either get devastating, cool, you already have that buff. You can get lethal, which you skip your devastating. So the units you kind of want to get sustained. So it's not great if you put it on there. I would rather put it on the Sword and Border Lich Guard. And on Warriors, it's okay. You're not upset.
It's a little bit of value no matter what you roll on Warriors. Easy done. All right. Is there one more special character we're talking about?
In terms of the special characters, those that there are some things you can do, but why don't we talk about some of the basic HQ characters, which I think are pretty much like some of the best units in the Codex. I think we'll get started, and this is also why you might not take Xandric, and you might choose a Lord or an Overlord instead. So Lord and Overlord are your bread and butter basic leaders. And you really just want them to give you that leader buff of +1 to hit and whatever special ability they activate. They are both nobles. A lot of the Necron abilities only activate if a noble is attached to a unit, not just a leader. And you would want both buffs. What both of these characters, and then I'm kind of lumping them together at the moment because they kind of do the same thing, but they've got small differences. But they both hold up a resurrection orb in their war gear.
Yes.
So what does a resurrection orb do? So normally your reanimation protocols only proc in your command phase, or unless you use the stratagem, you can proc it again in your opponent's shooting and fighting. However, if you have a resurrection orb with your leader in your opponent's command phase, you can proc your resurrection. So you're starting to see now how you potentially could proc resurrection on a single unit 4 times over the course of a battle round, which is really, really good once you start compounding.
It's so good.
Yeah. So you always want to be procking this into your big bricks. You want to put a Lord or an Overlord. What's the difference between a Lord and Overlord? So the Overlord, his ability is My Will Be Done, which allows you once per battle round to use on that unit that's leading a stratagem that has already been played that round for 0 CP. So this combined with something like, I don't know, resurrecting D3
Yep.
+1
Yep.
could be really great. For 0 CP, I think that's pretty nice. He's also much harder to kill from precision because he's got a 4-up invuln save and he is -1 damage. So I think he's pretty great. I would put him with some warriors, but I do actually think he's a bit expensive. And while the Might Will Be Done
85.
while the Might Will Be Done is pretty good, you'll see as you get into a higher kind of tier of players that if they want to kill a brick, they're just going to focus the one brick. So you would actually only use that stratagem once per phase in the shooting and fighting. So it actually, in testing, I don't think this has come up as much.
I truly prefer the regular Lord. It's 20 points cheaper. You get +1 move on the unit that they join. And you can still use strats even if you battle shocked, which the battle shock one won't come up crazy amount. You'll be happy when it does. But 20 less points, still has the res orb, and he adds to your move. And I found the move has been one of the biggest issues with a lot of Necron play, especially with a lot of minus move out there. Like if you got 20 Necron warriors and someone's putting -2 move on you all game from a Basilisk or a Thunderfire, you're moving 3 inches. And that's just not going to get you points. And just not going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, and like the battle shock doesn't come up that much, but it is always nice if you get battle shocked and you really want to res on that unit, you are able to just use your resurrection strats easily, which like not always happen, but it's nice to have.
Yeah, agreed. So that is, I mean, with your Lord, you just take the Lord's Blade, of course, over the Staff of Light. Or you take the Staff of Light because you're not getting combat that much anyway.
It matters what you're in. I would take Staff of Light with warriors, and I take the Lord's Blade with Lich Guard, depending on what is needed. But most of the time, I would take the Blade because it's Staff of Light is such low damage, and it never really comes up.
All right. What about the Cryptex, the regular Cryptex? Where's your pick here?
So they're all pretty good except for the, I think, Psychomancer. Shame. He's never going to be good, and he's probably like one of the worst models to build in the Codex, so just save yourself the trouble. I'll never buy that model.
But he looks so cool. You
will
break him instantly.
Those tentacles are like impossible to get right. I think I spent like 2 days trying to get that thing together, and I wanted to cry every time. And then it broke like the next tournament, so it's still just sitting there in pieces.
Dude, it's such a lame data sheet. So the Psychomancer, one enemy within 9 of this model, subtract 1 from a leadership characteristic of that unit, and then at the start of your shooting phase, select 1 enemy within 18. They must take a battle shot test. If this guy is within 9 of an enemy model, he's freaking dead next turn. Like he's got 1 shot at strength, at hitting on a 4 for some reason at 633. Oh man, when every other character is a banger, it's just so stark how ordinary this guy is.
Yeah, you never take him. He's just sad. He can live in a box. Maybe next edition. Third time
maybe.
Lucky.
All right.
So my pick, if you have to take a Cryptek, which I think the other 2 are pretty good as well, but the Technomancer is amazing.
Amazing.
All around. So let's think of the Technomancer in 2 different ways. So if you take a Technomancer without leading, right, he can get the Lone Operative keyword. So he's great for backline, which, as I said earlier, you want to put a Cornel on, a Coronal, so he gets a +1 to hit aura, lol. And that's great for backline. That's great for just scoring signals in the corner while you guys sit on objective and can't be hit by indirect. If that was all he did, you would want to include him. But that's not it. There's more to him. The main ability, when he is leading a unit, that unit has a 5-up deal no pain. That is ridiculous.
Who wrote this data sheet and thought this was okay? So this guy, you give him the cloak and you give him the coronal, and he's giving out a 6-inch aura of +1 to hit and 5-up feel no pain.
It's only when he leads. Yeah, but like you could do that. So, and that combos so well with a lot of data sheets. Like my
okay,
favorite to attach to this.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. He
it's
doesn't
only
give
when
out.
you
He
lead
doesn't give
to.
out the aura. Yeah, it's only when he's a leader. Sorry, I went straight to 11 out of 10 there. Apologies.
No, that'd be amazing if it was an aura. They can write that,
It's still amazing. Yeah, still
but
amazing.
yeah, so you attach them to something like a Lich Guard unit or a Warrior unit, and they just having that extra 5-up Feel No Pain is another data set people have to just get through, which they don't. With all the other buffs, you can get them. This just starts to become quite ridiculous how to get through a brick. Like a bit of a spoiler now, but you take a Lich Guard unit with Sword and Board, so that's a 4-up Feel No Pain. You add the Crypto Thralls, which we'll get to later, but that's 4-up Feel No Pain. Disgusting. Then you add a Lord, which is a Noble, which the Lich Guard to get a -1 to wound. Then you add the Technomancers to give all of them 5-up Feel No Pain. What is getting through that? There's probably a select 5 or 6 units in the whole roster of Warhammer 40k that is able to chew that in one activation. It is a full-on brick of sadness for your opponent to deal with.
Said the sadness brick. That is pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm actually. So, how many points does a chrono cost you?
30.
A chronomancer costs you 50.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant coronal. Yes, 50. Chronomancer.
Yeah. So, and then your coronal take him up to 80. So, yeah, exactly right. Pretty insane for 50 points. Wow. He'd be 150 in 9th edition. And then you'd pay more points for the cloak.
Yeah.
So good. So good, man.
Yeah, this is like my favorite. I think we can talk about one more of the special characters, HQs, elites in this index, which is probably, I was a bit shy of him when I started, but I'm getting very randy about it now, is the Hexmark Destroyer.
Yes, I was going to take us there if you didn't, mate. Tell us the story.
Yeah. So, cool. Hexmark Destroyers. What does he have? So he has a Disintegrator Pistol, which is 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, -2 AP, 1 damage. Then he's Lone Operative, Deep Strike, so he's kind of like a cooler Calidus Assassin, but, a little bit bigger. But it's just his 2 abilities that are really great. So the one thing is that he can fire Overwatch for free for 0 CP, even if you have used Overwatch. And when he fires, he is hitting on 2s. Pretty good.
Yep.
Then it's the other ability that kind of gets a bit crazy. So multi-threat Eliminator. Each time an enemy unit targets a friendly Necron unit within 3 of this model with a range attack, after that enemy unit has shot, this model can shoot as if it was your shooting phase. This can proc multiple times. So you could put a Lich Guard squad in the middle, have 3 of Hex marks, and you ask your opponent, come within 18 of this, you're going to get shot by 3 Hex marks every time. On top of maybe I'm going to Overwatch you twice. So you get 5 activations during your turn. It's Lone Operative, very hard to kill. I think these are great. I almost think you ought to take 1, maybe even 2. I know, I think David Gaylord's been playing with 3 of them at the moment.
Yes, I have seen lists with 3 of them, and I don't think that's wrong either. I think 1 is you should really ask yourself why you're not taking at least 1 in a competitive list, and then, you end up with 3. I can't say it's bad yet. I can't say it's wrong.
No, the thing is just they're just so great, and it's having also that precision and pistol, which really helps in the GSC matchup, especially killing their leaders before they get to doing activations. When they come deep strike, you can Overwatch. It actually just gives you a lot of play. Also, just having a lone op with deep strike is pretty useful for mission play.
Very potent.
So
we'll run you 70 points for that lad, and I think absolute value. Only 70. I think it's great.
Only 70. Yeah. Come on, guys, just start buying your hex marks. I know they were crap last edition, but like it's one of the coolest models we have in the range, in my opinion. So having 3, I'm not really too fussed about.
So I'm going to take us to a unit that I would not be surprised to if it gets nerfed at some point. This is the Crypto Thralls. This will run you 40 points for a pair. So for 40 points, you get 2 of these guys. They're toughness 4, 3 up save, 2 wounds. Adam, that doesn't sound too bad. Surely this is fine. They have a 4 up feel no pain. Just a 4 up feel no pain. While this unit is in the same unit as a Cryptek, the Cryptek also has a 4 up feel no pain, so no sniping at the Cryptek easily. And then it's got systematic vigor, which I think just makes him better in combat.
When it's destroyed by a melee attack.
When destroyed by a melee attack. If the model not fought this phase or on the 3+, don't replay, so they get to fight on death on a 3+ if they haven't fought yet, right?
Yeah, it's for the whole unit. So imagine that on a Lich Guard.
Yes, exactly right, for the whole unit. Sorry, I thought I mentioned that bit. Dude, it's too good. They're too good. I think they're a problem unit, to be honest. I think they're one of the pushing things into the feeling like a little bit more of a Death Star because, okay, so you have let's say, theoretically, you got the Lich Guard, yeah? You add your Noble, they're -1 to wound. You add the Cryptek for the extra res, for the let's say they got the size. So now you're adding one to give you an invuln and to give you the feel no pain. These guys also have the feel no pain. Now you have a fight on death. So these are almost adding a 3rd character to a unit, except this character gets to tank ahead of the rest of the pack, be resurrected very easily, and gives you a very premium special rule for a combat matchup, of course.
Yeah, I think it's just the trade with the fightback's really good. I think what the most oppressive thing about this is that you can always bring back 4 wounds of 4 up feel no pain after every reanimation, and because like if because the way of this, it just becomes part of the unit. It's not a character ladle and stuff. You can always just keep bringing this back. So imagine bringing back every turn before up feel no pain is, again, a big sad unit for your opponent to deal with.
It tilts the maths on the unit so badly. What's crazy about these guys is, so going back to Lich Guard, yeah? While a noble model is leading this unit, each time attack targets unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So even wounding the Crypto Thralls, which you know are going to take the saves first, they're at -1 to wound.
Yeah, and like there's so many different combos you can do that. Because like imagine you put this in a unit with Orokin. So these Crypto Thralls have an invuln as well as a 4 up feel no pain.
Correct.
I think this goes back like what I was talking about earlier. There's just so many combos you can unlock in this book, just to be really annoying for your opponent to destroy and make them a big sad.
The big sad, indeed. But suffice to say, the keg cans are on the menu. They're extremely strong. Use them while you can. I would love to see them go up by, to 30 points a model or something like that. 60 points for 2, I still think would be fine. Asking the Necron player, how many points would they need to go to for you to not want to auto take them?
80. They could double in price. I think I think it becomes a thing of like you don't want to spam them, because let's now just if you have 3 bricks, you just take 6 Crypto Thralls, easy. But if they go up to like 80 points, I don't think you realistically pay 240 points for all of that, or 220.
Fair enough. All right. Tell us about the... I'm going to say let's go to the Transcendent Catan, because people need to know about this combo and how brutal it can be. And then we'll go back to letting you lead the dance. So how many points will the Transcendent Catan run you?
I think it's 180 or 2... I can't actually remember. No, it's when was that? 270, I think.
It's 280.
280, yes.
Not bad. 10 points off.
Yeah, it's just an index I have to learn. So Transcendence, it's pretty good. It's pretty tough. It's tier 11. Save is 4 up only, but it's also makes it an invuln. you take half damage with its necrodermis. And as I said earlier, with the Cemental Weave that you can put on this character, you can make this into a 4-up Feel No Pain. So it's a model of it as T11 with a 4-up Innovon and a 4-up Feel No Pain that is also half damage. Pretty hard to get through.
Crazy.
Its weapons are pretty good, bit swingy. So its range weapon is Assault, Sustain, hits 1. Only range 12 though, 6 attacks. On hits on 2, Strength 8, -2 AP, D3 damage, which is fine. And its melee weapon is 8 attacks, hitting on 2, Strength 9, -3, D6. And it's the D6 swingy, going back to that kind of 9th edition Necron, whatever. So you think okay, cool, it's tanky, that's cool, it does swingy damage, that's fine. What's really good about it? So this has to be its ability to jump around the whole board. So whenever you select this model to advance, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up like it's deep striking 9 away from any enemy model. So this thing can just be zooming around the whole board, causing absolute headaches for your opponent.
Yeah, this is a huge problem unit. It's essentially, if you want to think about how it actually works, it kind of operates like a Grey Knight, except in the same turn. So every turn it gets to jump, but it's when you advance. So you can't just keep going you can't advance and charge, right? So you select to advance and then you redeploy the 9 inches away, but you can't declare a charge, yeah, because you've advanced. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, you can't do that. So yeah, does stop it from being a bit oppressive, but it's still pretty good.
It's still pretty good, man. It's nothing wrong with that, because it's a pressure piece. Because it's so hard to remove that you just kind of hit it onto a flank and then just watch your opponent try and sweat as they remove it. There are a couple of armies that maybe kill it quickly, but there's not many.
No. And what's really cool about it is that you, as a Necron player, you have a weak flank, and you kind of want to dedicate the minimum amount of units there, but forcing your opponent to dedicate something there so they don't get into your main brick. If you're putting this there, they need to put some real firepower into that flank just to deal with the thing, because otherwise, 5 scouts ain't going to do it for you.
Yeah, agreed. What's the next unit you want to take a look at or tell people about?
Why don't we jump to my Lich Guard? Let's talk about what I think is the definitively best data sheet in the whole index. They are insane, and they're insane just because of the one ability they have, which is the -1 to wound when led by a noble. It makes them oppressively tanky. As soon as you also have all the other buffs coming on top of them, their damage is fine. It's very grindy, but because of the -1 and all the other buffs, nothing gets through it. I think you almost every time start list building with 2 blocks of Lich Guard, sword and board.
These guys feel like the Deathwing Terminators of this edition so far.
Yeah.
Toughness 5 with -1 to wound. So you have to be strength 11 to still be wounding him on a 3. Everything else is a 4 or worse. You have to be what? Yeah. Yeah. This is a really hard unit to kill. And it's cheap. It's 190 points for 10. It's so cheap for 2 toughness 5 wounds that you can just stack so many things on. And I hate to say it, they do feel like a Death Star able unit, because you can attach 3 things. You can attach a noble, a cryptech, and then the crypto thralls to this unit. I suppose that's not. Sorry, you can attach similar levels of things to stuff like guardsmen and stuff like that, but it's pretty different what you can do with that chassis versus what you can do with this chassis. I'm right there with you, man. This could be the defining unit of the book. And taking 30 of them, I'm not sure you can take enough characters to make 30 of them good, but for 190 points, just 10 of them with whatever is fine.
Yeah, they are so good. I think when you're building your Necron list, you kind of compare this to the other big brick of the index, which is the warrior unit. And if you take the same nobles, this is cheaper.
Yuck.
It's got the same amount of wounds. It's easier to hide.
Mhm.
It's harder to kill. I think you always grab Lich Guard. I know there's been a lot of chat as soon as this codex came out. People were like, oh dude, imagine my 20 warriors going to the middle and like, oh, they got all these buffs. And I almost feel that while that is decent and good, it's almost a trap, because there's the better unit of the Lich Guard, which can't be tied up in combat because they'll grind you down, harder to shoot off, and have a smaller footprint than a warrior unit. I think the only weakness you have with the Lich Guard is the OC1, which is...
True. Yep.
It's okay, but can also... we can build into that with the Catacomb Command Barge. For those who don't know, the Command Barge gives a aura of 6. With an aura in 6 inches, it gives +1 OC. So you can have your Lich Guard being 2 OC, which is pretty good.
That's pretty good. I mean, I still think warriors are extremely good. I think they're two different things, though. I don't think a warrior unit is a bully unit. I think a Lich Guard unit is a bully unit and a deterrent. I think Necron warriors is more of a board control list, where you're reanimating over here, putting them over here, taking this objective, getting close, swinging it over here. I think Necrons operate a lot more like, I guess, GSC neophytes do, whereas neophytes actually do relevant damage. Necro warriors don't do any damage. Necro warriors for me is a lot more about denying points, and whereas Lich Guard is like push up into the middle and just be like, swing, buddy, you're not going to hit me hard enough. But yeah, the fact is the Lich Guard are 50 points less for the same amount of wounds at better toughness, better durability. Like, it's kind of crazy that they're 50 points less than the Warriors.
Yeah, and with like the way that reanimation protocols works, also the way that you are allowed to reanimate in 10th, you can no longer do the string thing that you used to be able to do with Warriors. You have to bring them back in coherency from the beginning of the turn. It's a bit easier to reanimate and get the full squad of the Lich Guard back without kind of screwing yourself over, because that sometimes happens with Warriors, because you just don't have enough space. They've surrounded you a bit. But yeah, like Lich Guard, always take them.
Yeah, agreed. Where do you want to go from here?
Why don't I do a controversial unit, which I think no one's picked up on?
I like it when I have an expert on and they've got their own little spicy sauce. Let's do it.
Okay, so we've been testing this a lot. I know this comes after our list build, so I'm fine sharing this at the moment, but Canoptic Wraiths are, I think, a very sneaky unit. So, okay, their data sheet. So their movement 9, they T6, which I think is a vital part. Very hard to actually kill. 3 up save, 3 wounds, 2 OC, and leash of 8. Okay, whatever, don't care. So then, like, if you look at the rest of Darcy, it's not as impressive. You got a particle caster, which is actually really good. So is a pistol and it's devastating wounds. For some reason, it hits on 2s. Don't know why, but it's pretty cool. Yep. And it's devastating, great. And like the melee weapons aren't that great. Only hitting on 4s, strength 6, -1 AP, 2 damage. The ability is okay as well, which is you go through a unit in movement phase, and every model in that unit takes a mortal wound on 4 up, which is pretty good in the mirror matchup. But the thing that we've been really enjoying is, if you look at the keywords, they are beasts and they are flying.
Beasts. Yeah.
These units are incredibly good on WTC boards. They are able to get through all the ruins. They can jump onto a point. They are quite tough to kill with just basic chaff. So your opponent has to commit something
of relevance
that can kill them. So I think they work extremely well with your Lich Guard, as you got your 2 main Lich Guard bricks, and then the Canoptic Wraiths are a great complement on the sideboards because your opponent likely doesn't have enough firepower to deal with all three at the same time. And sometimes I've been testing 2 units which have actually just felt amazing. They are a bit expensive. They're 110 points, and there are 2 other units that are the same price point that people compare to. Which the other one is the Ophidian Destroyers, which are also pretty good, but they're quite flimsy.
It's strength 4, man.
T4,
T4 strength 4, no invuln. They just explode. Only a toughness 5, 4 up save, 3 wounds, no invuln. That's a dead unit. Like they got 5 attacks, hitting on 3s at 4/2/2, but strength 4, so much toughness 5 in the game. They can't hurt us. They can't hurt any vehicle. Like every vehicle, if it's not a land speeder or a freaking Viper, they're winning it on 6s. Like they can't punch up at all. The once or twice per game dev wounds is nice, but man, Ophidian's my favorite model. Maybe sitting on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, their ability is kind of cute. With they can just deep strike at the end of your opponent's turn. They go into reserve and then come back. So like that can be some play, but I think most good players will be able to screen you out without much trouble. But yeah, I think Wraiths are one of the sleeper units in our codex that I think people should really be paying more attention to and using their games as skirmishes or just like flank objective holders. I think
I agree. I like it. Well, I like your thinking. I'm keen to see if it translates because it makes a lot of sense. I've been playing a couple of games on the WTC boards and they really tilt some of the things you can and can't take. You really need to plan for those boards. I would like to talk about the Doomsday Arcs, which they felt pretty good in 8th edition and were just the worst. Well, sorry, they didn't feel good in 8th edition, but you didn't have any other choices. In 9th edition, they were garbage. How many points will they run you now? Let's have a quick gaze here. 185. So that's not cheap, but that's not crazy expensive.
No.
They're toughness 9, they move 9, toughness 9, 14 wounds. They got a 3-up armor save, but never heard of that because they got a 4-up invulnerable save, which, you're always going to have that. Their Doomsday Cannon is blast and heavy, 72-inch range. I mean, they might as well just print table instead of 72-inch range now. But anyway, D6 plus 1 shots with blast, of course, hitting on 3s at strength 15, neg 4, 4 damage. And if they don't move, they get dev wounds. And then, of course, they've got the Gorse Flayers, rapid fire 5, 24 inches at 3, hitting on 3s at strength 4, no rend, 1 damage, 5 shots if I didn't say before. So at 12 inches, you got 10 shots from that. Do you rate these guys?
I think they're fine. I don't like. I'm talking in the context of WC. I think they're just a bit too large to get through the boards.
Yeah.
And they've.
There you go.
Yeah, and they're just too vulnerable. People get angles on them, and it's like they are good into like medium tough stuff like Terminators and stuff like that with the flat 4 damage, and can give you a bit more play into knights, but. Like, I don't know. I've from my testing, they do all right, but they cost way too much points for what other units could do.
Yep, that's a pretty fair take. One more unit from you, mate, and then we'll see if I'll ask you if there's a Forge World unit you would like to talk to, and then we'll probably wrap this one up. So yeah, one more unit. What would you pick?
I think actually one of the best heavy supporters is the Locust Heavy Destroyer.
Agree.
So this unit is, I think, amazing. You want to take it all the time. So they got 2 versions. They got the Mnek Exterminator. So this is 36-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. It is heavy, rapid fire 6, sustain, hit 1. And it combos with its ability, which is with the Mnek Exterminator on a wound roll of 1, you get to reroll once. Then you got the anti-tank version, which is the Ghost Destructor, which is heavy lethal hits with 40-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, strength 14, -4, flat 6. And then against monsters or vehicles, you reroll a wound of 1. This is pretty good. They are extremely cheap for 3. I think it's 145 for 3.
So 45 points each, so it's 135 for 3.
135.
Dude, 45 points for a toughness 6 4-wound chassis. Are there any does a Locust Lord do much for these guys if you can attach one?
Yes. So what the Locust Lord, it makes the 5s become critical hits, which is extremely good with the anti-infantry with the Mnek Exterminator, because your sustain will be proccing on 5s and 6s, which there is a small combo you could play with the reroll wound strat, which will be if you get in with the 18, that is 36 shots hitting on 2s, sustain 5, 6, rerolling all wounds. I've used this quite a bit in my games, and they always seem to pay themselves back very quickly.
It sounds like a GSC solution, baby. I want 9. Nah, that's probably a bit much, but they actually sound pretty exciting.
Yeah, and their footprint is pretty small as well. Which, like, what I've been doing a lot, depending on the matchup, is just putting in reserve, and then just coming down when they need to, because they don't take. They're not that hard to kill, so just keeping them in reserve, playing with your like Technomark or Hex Mark with the Coronal, move him up where you're going to put them, and just let them fire at whatever they need to, because they got the range to do it. It's amazing. And then the anti-tank, anti-monster one, a flat 6 damage is pretty good, and with lethal hits, you sometimes do just proc that.
Agree. I do love strength 14 rerolling 1s to wound is wounding on 3s rerolling 1s, or wounding on 2s rerolling 1s. It's with strength 14. Like have you found something that's toughness 14 yet? I haven't. So that's really good. Of course, shooting a monster or a vehicle is really good. Yeah,
I think they're great. I think you always want to take at least 3 of that, because the Necron Codex is a bit shy of anti-tank. Like the Doomsday Arc is great, but just, if you are having a very heavy meta of, I don't know, knights, but who isn't, just taking lots of these up and just one-shotting. It's sometimes you just roll hot and you do 18 wounds to a knight.
Yep. Well, it's not that wild a thing, right? If you had 3 of these with a Lord, they're 3 shots hitting on 2s. Decent odds to hit with all of them. Yeah,
5 and 6 is lethal.
Exactly, 1 or 2 of those is going to go straight through, and then the next one's wounding on a 3 with a reroll. It's not unrealistic that you give them 3/5 up invulnerable saves.
Yeah, and those all go through, and then that's 18 wounds on the knight with your 135 point unit. Like, it's the output to the points trade is why I think you want to grab 6 of these at least, 9 if you can afford it, which you should probably try and afford it. And I'm depending on your meta.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Going to ask you about one more unit.
Okay. One more unit.
Give us your hot take on the Silent King. Hot take on the Silent King.
It's kind of trash, eh?
It is absolutely garbage. He costs way too many points.
Too many points. It's like almost much as a knight. I do like what they've done to his weapons from last edition, giving stars indirect. Pretty cool idea, but I don't know, there's nothing on the starter sheet that makes me excited. It just makes me sad, and my Silent King's going to go live in the cupboard until the Codex comes out. Hopefully it'll be better by then.
It's really kind of sad, right? Because Gilliman feels good, the Lion feels good, Magnus feels good. Most of these level characters, I mean, Angron is in a pretty awful place, but that's because of his books in a pretty awful place. But most of these keystone Primarch level, God tier, King level guys all feel pretty good this edition, except for this guy. It's a bit rough.
Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe he had too much time in the sun during 9th edition, which he was like a staple across most lists. So yeah, maybe he's just taking a break until the Codex comes out. Hopefully they can push him up again.
Hopefully. Okay, mate, give us your hot take. Is there any of the Forge World units that you think warrant a look in for people?
Honestly, no. Like, I looked through the data sheets, nothing for me was exceptionally great. The Titan, I can't remember its name, looked fun when towering was still good until they pushed the points up. So yeah. None of them were interesting for me. I don't know. Did you have a unit you liked in that?
And honestly, when you did have towering, the Seraptech, which is the heavy construct you're talking about, did look pretty appealing. But yeah, I haven't had a close look at the others, unfortunately. So I was going off. If you say that's the case, that's probably the case, mate.
Yeah. Happy to be proved wrong by someone, but yeah, from the data sheets, there was nothing that stood out to me.
Fair enough. So on that note, mate, we might wrap this up. But of course, at this point, we do rate this codex upon a couple of metrics. How, if you were to put Necrons into the competitive, spheres, from the D tier to the S tier, where do you think they reside at the moment? This, and when this is coming out, guys, there may have been the end of July update as well. So do forgive us if there is a little bit of changes there. But right now we've had the Eldari and the price increases on the Knights. So we've had one part of this balanced data slate. There's possibly another part coming. So please bear that in mind. But mate, where do you think they reside right now?
I think we definitely a tier army. I think the one thing people must realize with Necrons is that unlike some of the other armies where you'll smash someone by 20 points, 30 points, your Necrons are going to they consistently beat most of the other armies, but only by 15, 20 points if you play really well, just because how consistent they are in primary and their secondaries. So I think they have play in almost every army, maybe not so much into the Knights variant, but all the others, I think you can win any matchup besides those two. Even to stuff like AOWdu, there is play. So yeah, go to your tournament, bring some, pop 2 Lich Guard in the middle and see what happens, guys. I'm keen to see some fun lists.
So you reckon they're sitting in the upper A tier?
Yeah, about mid A tier would be
nice.
My mid A tier.
I think they're either the third or fourth best army in the game at the moment. I haven't quite got a read on how good T-Suns are, but I do know that it's Eldari and GSC are the two S tiers, and then I do think A tier is up for debate. But yeah, cool to hear, man. I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I apologize, guys. I think we've had a little bit of lag in our communications. I've noticed it, and hopefully you guys have noticed at home. A little bit of forgiveness there. We're speaking over vast distances, and I don't know if the internet in South Africa is all that crash hot, but Australia's internet is absolutely trash. So forgive us if there's any issues with that. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to go over and record part 2, get to know this lovely gentleman a little bit more, hear about some of the unique spiciness out of South Africa, and also write some awesome and exciting competitive Necron lists. So mate, anything you'd like to say or plug before we check out?
Yeah, I first wanted to plug Team South Africa. We're on Instagram at the moment. It's going to be our first WTC, so please give us a follow. We also have a Ko-Fi account on there if anyone buys a coffee, which may or may not be translated into Belgian beers during WTC, but be creative. I also want to plug our coaches, Kyle Grundy. He has a program called Pure Type Program. It's a Tau-focused Discord with a lot of engagement and community kind of vibes. If you're a budding Tau player, I think he's one of the best in the world to receive coaching on.
Dude, Well, I recorded the Tau review with Kyle, and that's actually probably coming out the week before this one. So they would have just heard Kyle last week as well. So the double plug, you guys. Go over and support these gentlemen with all that they do. Matt, you've been an absolute gent. Thank you so much for your help. Yeah, good luck at WTC, man. Can't wait to meet you in person. And well done to South Africa fielding a team. Hopefully it is nothing but absolute glory for you to come. Thank you very much again, man. Have a great night.
You too, man. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.